Hi, this is Matt Lindy. In this video, I'm talking about an undue influence case of somebody I knew pretty well. His name was Lee Allen Lindy, and he was my father. He died on December 10th, 1994 at approximately 12:05 a.m. When he died, I was sitting in the hospital holding his hand and looking into his eyes, just as I'm looking into this camera right now. I've had people ask me, well, Matt, why do you tell the whole world about this? It had a profound effect on my life. It's one of the reasons that I do what I do with such passion now. The other reason I say this is because when I am representing somebody, one of the things that I do is give them candid and frank advice based on my understanding of the legal issues, the practical issues, and the personal issues. People will often say, they haven't heard this story, but you don't know what I'm going through. And without missing too much of a beat, I'll say, yes, I do, and let me tell you this. I also tell the story because it really helped me advise people from an emotional and practical standpoint. The courts can only give you certain remedies. In an undue influence case, you are very likely to never know two things: what really happened, and you are very unlikely to ever get anybody to apologize to you. With that in mind, let me tell you about Lee Lindy. He was my father. I'm the oldest of 4 children. In early 1994, he was diagnosed with liver cancer. At the time, he was living on his own in Racine, Wisconsin, and the 4 of us kids were living in different parts of Wisconsin. I was living in Lake Geneva. I had 1 year earlier graduated from the University of Wisconsin with a law degree. After my dad was diagnosed with liver cancer, he had a woman up in Waseca, Minnesota that he had been dating. They weren't particularly close, but he had been dating her and he had been dating several other women. She had invited him to stay in Waseca, and I am from Minnesota originally, even though my whole family had moved to Wisconsin years earlier. And he went up to stay with her. Well, as someone with a terminal diagnosis of liver cancer, he got worse and worse. And we found out after the fact that she started telling him that the kids were after his money and didn't care about him. And that was completely false. He didn't have a lot of money, but the 4 of his kids certainly weren't after it. He eventually married her when he was in a condition where when you have liver cancer, your liver eventually stops functioning very well and fluids back up, and you basically have a bloated stomach. It looks like you might be pregnant, but he was a guy, but it was backed up fluids. She married him 3 weeks before he died at a ceremony. No one was really there. And the day after that, we found this out after the funeral, she drove him up from Waseca, Minnesota to Chicago, Illinois. He could not drive at that point, and he was on heavy pain medication. And he transferred a bunch of assets that would have been part of his estate to her. 3 weeks later, he died in the hospital. And the day after he died, she kicked us out of the house that he had been staying in. It was actually her house in Waseca, Minnesota, but she kicked us out of it. And we had no idea what was going on at that point. Like I say, we found out about the asset transfers after the funeral, and she became a very different person. Needless to say, I was a little bit upset. And as a new attorney, I filed a lawsuit. It was undue influence. I'm going to get her. I was mad. And I probably have never been that mad about anything in my life. Feeling that not only did she take advantage of my dad, we found out her parents were millionaires. She didn't even really need this money. So I understand the emotional involvement. And for about a year, I was going to sue her over everything. I was going to get her. I didn't care. Money's not an issue. It's the principle of the thing. I was working for a small law firm in Wisconsin at the time, and the senior partner was over 70 years old. We used to go to the little gym, working out one day. I was talking to him about it, and all the things I was going to do. And he looked at me and said, Matt, you need to understand that no matter what happens in your case, you are not going to feel better. So look at your case objectively, and if it's not incredibly strong, settle it. Well, I listened to what he said. The case was not incredibly strong. It's hard to prove undue influence Because two things you're not going to know in an undue influence case. You're never going to see a video of the person unduly influencing the person you think they influenced. They only do it when nobody else is around. So you can only prove these cases usually by circumstantial evidence. The other thing you're never going to see is you're never going to see them come and apologize to you. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't care about anything except the money. I'm so sorry I manipulated your mother, father, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, and took their money. That isn't going to happen. So you have to look at the case objectively from the standpoint of what can the court provide and what is the likelihood that you're going to prevail. If you come in here and talk to me about an undue influence case, I'm going to give you candid advice, not only from a legal standpoint and a practical standpoint, and there are many attorneys that can do that, but also from the standpoint of someone who has emotionally experienced what you're going through. Because my goal, if the facts warrant, is not only to attempt to recover assets for you, but also to help you move on with your life. Do I hate this person who took advantage of my dad today? No, of course not. Hating somebody doesn't hurt them, it only hurts you. She was after money. Well, a lot of people are after money. We settled the case, we moved on. It has helped me. If I saw her again, I should probably thank her, because it's one of the reasons I got into the area of law that I'm in, and it's one of the reasons that in this area I enjoy what I'm doing and I practice with such passion.